Let's start. Sit straight. As always, we'll start with the prayer. Join your hands in Namaskar. Keep your eyes closed. Let your thumbs rest on the sternum bone. Relaxed shoulders, relaxed arms. Lower body completely grounded into the seat of your practice. Upper body becoming lighter with every breath. Connect with that upward lifting energy from the front of the body and the downward pressing energy from the back side of the body. Observe your breathing. And allow your breath to bring your attention, your presence into the session. We will chant 3 Omkars and the prayer. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Rub your palms. Place your palms on your eyes and slowly open your eyes. Okay. Right. Okay. So, today's topic, experiencing the 5 elements through asana and pranayama practice. So if you see, we have been moving towards more subtle aspects of the practice. When we started from the gross element of asana, movement principle, movement patterns, then pranayam, breath, right? And then yesterday we moved towards the subtler aspect of movement and alignment. And now we are moving towards even more subtle aspect of 5 elements. Okay. Now, let's imagine that we wake up in the morning and we step towards a mirror. And we step towards a mirror not to check our physical appearance, but there is a mirror that shows us the truth of how we feel, not how we look or not how the physical body looks. So, what will this mirror tell us? Some days there is less spark in the eyes, and that lesser spark in the eyes tells us or tells even the others about our mood, our energy. So, if the eyes are lacking that spark, what does that indicate? It indicates that the fire within has dimmed a little. Then some days, our face feels puffy. It holds puffiness. Again, the energy is different. Okay. Now, this mirror is, of course, reflecting our physical appearance, but what it is giving us back is not just the physical appearance. It is telling us that what's the energy like. So, if our face is holding puffiness, it means what? It's like water pooling where it shouldn't. Or on some other days, breath feels shallow or chest feels tight, as if the air and space have been squeezed out. So, what is all of this telling us? All of this physical appearance is telling us something about an element, isn't it? Our eyes are telling us something about the fire element. Our body also tells about the water retention, water element. Where is it accumulated? Where is it going? Where is it lacking? And now let's say our yoga mat is that mirror. Our yoga mat is that mirror which tells us about these 5 elements. Okay. So what if each asana, each breath, what if it could reflect the state of our inner elements? What if our practice revealed which element is vibrant or which element is overpowering more than required, or which element is not there, it is dormant? What if our asana practice, our pranayama practice, our movement could tell this to us? So, yesterday we explored the body's movement patterns, gatis, the spirals, the swings, the subtle shifts rooted in our evolutionary um, past. Today, we shift the how the body moves from how the body moves, which we understood through gatis, to what moves through the body. And what moves through the body is Pancha Mahabhutas, the 5 great elements. Prithvi, earth. Okay. When I say Prithvi or earth, specifically, I have to clarify it about this element. We are not referring to the planet Earth here. Understand this. We are not referring to planet Earth. Then what are we referring to? We are referring to the element of Earth. Element of Earth and planet Earth are 2 different things. Okay? Like air. Earth is an element. We are referring to that. So, what are those five great elements? Earth, Prithvi, then water, which is also known as Aap or Jal, then fire, Agni or Tej, air, Vayu, and ether, Akash or space. Now, there are sense organs in the body that represent each of these elements also in the body. Okay. For example, our nose, Dhranendriya, which has or which is the instrument for the sense of smell, gandha. This is the expression for the element of earth, Prithvi. Our jibha, which is also known as rasana, and rasa corresponds to water. So this Jnanendriya sense organ, jibha, it represents what? Or it corresponds to what? Jala, aap or water. Then chakshu, eyes, that help us see a form, rupa. These are what? These are the representation of fire. Then air, vayu, our sense organ of tvak, skin. It represents or it expresses the element of air. Getting this? And ears, shrotra, that is for the element of space, ether. So what we are saying is, see, each of these organs also represent elements. So we are saying these are not just physical substances, these five elements. They are the essence of our body, our emotions, our breath, and ultimately our Chaitanya, consciousness. Okay, so now let's go deeper into the understanding of this elemental journey using asana and pranayama as our guides. Okay, now in yogic philosophy, everything in the universe, including us, our body, our mind, intellect, is woven from the five elements. And these elements are not isolated. Okay. Though there are five in numbers, they are not isolated. They are not working independently in silos. They dance together. And as a result of their dancing together, we can say we get the physical form. So these five elements together are shaping our physical form. They are shaping our emotions. They are shaping not just our outer form, but also our inner world. So how does each of these elements, earth, water, fire, air, ether, how do they manifest into our physiological expression or psychological expression and our characteristics? Each element has a character. Each element has its own prakriti, own nature. So let's say earth, Prithvi. So physiologically, what will express this element? Our bones, muscles, tissues. This is a physiological expression, we can say, of the element of earth. Okay. Now, what's the psychological expression of this element of earth? It is stability, being grounded, feeling secure and safe. is the psychological expression of earth. Obviously, why is groundedness is a psychological expression of earth? Because the characteristic of earth is solidity or being dense, being supportive or enduring. All these are the characteristics of Prithvi, earth element. Now water, apa. Um, Physiological expression of water, blood, all the bodily fluids, lymph, physiological expression. Then what will be the psychological expression for water? It is when, we are in a flow. There is adaptability, like, uh, like the water assumes the color of the element that you mix in it. Like if you mix red color in it, it becomes red. So that, what is that? That's adaptability. That's a psychological expression of the element of water. Then even emotional depth is a psychological expression for water. So what will then be the characteristic of water? Fluidity, then the nature, the nurturing quality, it's a characteristic of water, right? Because you water a plant, you nurture it that way. Then um, cohesive cohesiveness, that's a characteristic of water element. Then the third is fire, Agni. The physiological expression of Agni obviously has to be Jaఠaragni, digestive fire. Correct. So digestion, metabolism, the heat in the body is nothing but fire element. What could be the psychological expression? Now, if it is, we are talking about heat, we are talking about a fire, then willpower, confidence, clarity, right? The nature of transformation, leadership, all of these um, qualities are psychological expression of fire element. So what's the characteristic of fire? It is mobile, it is subtle, subtler than water, subtler than earth, obviously. It is dynamic, you can't catch it, and it is expansive in that sense. Then it is warm, sharp, intense, and it is also purifying. And that is why in the Vedic society, there was so much of importance given to fire. They used to have Agnihotra. Why? Because fire has this purifying quality. If you have to let go of something, what do? Swaha. You let go and you let the Agni purify it. Now air, Vayu. Physiological expression is nervous system. Movement is because of the air, because of the element of air. The movement of energy throughout is because of the element of air. Breath. What's the psychological expression? Alertness or even spontaneity, both. at the same time. Lightness and being dynamic is the characteristic of the element of air. It is mobile. Fire is also mobile, but air is even more mobile, right, than Agni. It is even subtler than fire. So as we are moving from earth towards the other elements, we see that the elements become subtler. Earth is the grossest, then subtler than earth is water. Subtler than earth and water is fire. Subtler than earth, water, fire is air. Right? And the subtlemost is ether or space, Akasha. What's the physiological expression? Where do we find space in the body? In all cavities, joints, mind, psychological expression, openness, wisdom, intuition, acceptance, compassion, expansiveness, all are psychological expressions of the element of ether. What's the characteristic of it? It is vast. It's everywhere. It is all pervading. That's the character. Okay. Now we come to the point of experiencing. Now let's say we have two lenses. Okay. One lens is our anatomical lens. Okay. And the other one is elemental lens, the lens of these 5 elements. Now the anatomical lens focuses on bones, joints, muscles, alignment in asana. While the elemental lens has a different focus. So what does it say? It asks you to check what sensations are arising in my body when I'm doing this pose. How does my breath feel? What is my inner environment, inner weather, inner climate like? Is it steady or it is fluid? Or is it fiery or airy or spacious? All this is what it's the description of my inner weather. What is it like? So we are saying that we are kind of shifting from a pose, a position to how we perceive it. So it is a shift from position to perception. It is a shift from position to perception. So it is like a shift from giving importance to mechanics, to giving importance to meaning. Getting this mechanics of the pose or pranayama practice, mechanics of the practice basically. It could be asana practice or pranayama practice, to moving towards the meaning of the asana and meaning of the pranayama. So the elemental lens is inviting us to focus on meaning. Are you all with me? So now let's take some examples of some poses. And let's see, not just asanas, but let's also take examples of pranayama. Okay. And let's see how these elements can be felt, can be experienced, and how they come alive through the practice of asana and pranayama. So we'll move through some asanas, and each asana we have paired with a pranayama. So as I talk about asana, I'll also talk about one pranayama or cleansing practice. So Let's say the first one is samasthiti. What do we do in samasthiti? We just stand with our feet about 6 inches apart. The toes are pointing forward and we are just standing tall. Shoulders in line with our gati are rolled outwards. The posterior chain, backside of the body, adhogati, pressing down. Front side of the body, urdhvagati, lifting up. The thigh bones rotated inwards, and that is why the toes are pointing forward. So we are all aligned. The physical body is aligned. The anatomical lens is telling us these cues. Getting this for Tadasana. Okay. So this is how the physical cues are. Now, what about the energy, the elemental quality? What happens there? We feel solid, right? Do we feel solid or we feel unsteady in samasthiti? Is there, do you feel rooted when we are in samasthiti? We do. We should be feeling rooted. So the inner reflection should be where and how am I, or rather, what is making me feel rooted in samasthiti? It is that element of earth. Getting this? Now let's take an example of the practice of Kapalabhati. Kapalabhati builds that inner strength. It is a cleansing practice, so it clears stagnation. We know how to practice it. We take short, forceful, active exhalations through nose and letting the inhalation happen passively. And we focus on lower belly contracting. This is how we practice Kapalabhati. Now, Kapalabhati grounds us by anchoring the breath in the pelvic floor. That pelvic floor is the seat of earth. And so Kapalbhati clears mental fog, enhancing clarity, enhancing presence, which means what? It keeps us rooted, grounded. So both these practices, as physiological description we saw, but at psychological level, we feel secure, present, and steady. Now, when the element of earth is balanced, we feel this way. We feel steady, we feel present, we feel secure. So, on days when we are not comfortable in samasthiti, that means the element of earth is not in balance. So, we feel scattered, we feel anxious. Now, if the element of earth is in excess, not balanced, not even weak, then what? How will we feel? We will feel heavy, we will feel lethargic, or we will feel stuck. Understanding this, so this is how we can understand the presence of the element of earth, and not only the presence, because all these elements are present all the time. No element is absent, but we will know whether it is in balance, whether it is weak, or it is in excess. Now let's take a practice which is a moving practice like Chandra Namaskar. Okay, wherein we move from left to right. and right to left sideways. So this is a flow. And in that flow, our breath is supposed to guide us. So what is the nature of this practice? It is fluidity, adaptability, which is the element of water, like a river flowing. So we move slowly. We emphasize on smooth transitions over speed, right? For example, the practice of Surya Namaskar, we can do at varying speed, very slow, medium, or even fast. But Chandra Namaskar fast is not possible. We have to maintain a steady pace for it. We have to soften the joints like hips, knees. We also have to let our spine move, undulate like a wave. We keep checking if the breath is guiding the flow or we are forcing the movement. So all these are physical cues in Chandra Namaskar. Then energetically, we need to then start noticing areas of resistance or jerkiness. Where does my body want to glide? Where does it feel stuck? All these are energetic cues. And even deeper than that is to check within ourselves, am I open to change or am I clinging on to control something? That controlling is where the water is not flowing. There is no fluidity. It is stuck. Now, if we have to think of pranayam, then the practice of Shitali pranayam corresponds to the element of water. It embodies water's cooling, nurturing quality. That's the practice of Shitali. Now, how do we practice it? We sit, we roll the tongue into a tube or purse the lips if you can't roll the tongue. That's what we do. And we inhale slowly through the tongue. We feel the cool air entering and then we exhale through the nose. This is the practice of Shitali Pranayama. Now, Shitali, if we have to understand the elemental connection, this Shitali soothes the nervous system. It invites emotional fluidity. It hydrates. So this is like mirroring water's ability to adapt, to cleanse. So, like we understood earth, when water is balanced, we feel emotionally open, adaptable, and connected. If water is weak, we feel stuck, we feel rigid, we feel dry, and emotionally disconnected. When the water is too much, when it is in excess, we feel overly emotional and we are unable to set boundaries. We feel overwhelmed. Now we come to the element of fire, Agni. Can you think of a pose for this? Agni, fire. Hanumanasana, Brahmari, now warrior pose. Okay, Surya Namaskar, Virasana. What's the physical expression of fire? Digestion, metabolism. So think heat. Yes. So think of a pose about that area where digestion happens. Yes. Okay, so yes, all of this is not wrong what you're saying, but Navasan, which just core, which controls, no, which has that core control. Navasan, Ardha Navasan, yes, Ardha Matsyendrasan, Vajrasan are good for digestion. Okay, now what we are, so that is a therapeutic, what we are now talking about is the pose where you can feel that fire, the pose which gives you that sense of you taking control. Plank, yes. Okay, so let's take an example of Navasana. So this pose ignites the seat of Agni, because if you have to hold Navasana, there is also bandha that you have to apply. And as we have seen, fire is transformative. It is driving digestion. Psychologically, it is willpower, it is clarity. Now, while practicing Navasana, what physical cues are we thinking about? Engaging the lower belly to lift the chest, keeping the spine long, avoiding collapsing of the spine. The breath is steady, sharp, okay? And there is strength needed, and you build strength. And fire is strength, fire is power, right? Surya Namaskar is also that kind of practice, which is dynamic. Now, energetically, then we have to think, is my effort focused or it is aggressive? Does my body feel steady or unsteady in that pose, Navasana? If I push too much in aggression, I will end up hurting my lower back. So, fire is about being driven by purpose, not by pressure. If you do a pose aggressively, especially if you do a pose which requires a lot of core control with a lot of aggression, because it is fire, you will end up being driven by pressure. But it is something which is driven by purpose. This is how we can connect with the element of fire. Now, the pranayama practice related to this element is bhasrika. Okay, bellows breathing. So, how do we do bhasrika? We sit upright, we take forceful inhalations and exhalations through nose. So, we are pumping the belly like a bellows. So, we also do this with hand movement or shoulder movement, inhale and exhale. So, Bhastrika builds heat and clarity, activating the solar plexus, the center of fire. It is supposed to be burning through lethargy. It is supposed to be sharpening the focus. Now, if fire is balanced, you feel clear, purposeful, and energized. If fire is weak, you feel passive, cold, you feel less motivated, demotivated. And if the fire is in excess, then you feel angry, you feel overly intense or burned out. Our topic for second day, burnout. That's a result of excess fire. Then now we come to the next element, which is the element of air. I would say many of the balancing postures where you have to control the movement and balance and get steady, like Ardha Chandrasana, half moon pose, which wherein you need to balance on one leg when the other leg is lifted up, and you are also in side bend and you are raising that arm up. So this pose embodies that lightness and mobility, because we also have to stack the hips and shoulders. There are so many small micro adjustments that the standing leg does. So, in order to be able to do this with physical body, we need to connect with the air element. It needs to be in balance. So, we need to check within, am I rigid or fluid in adjustments? At times, if I am doing some adjustments using hands in an in-person class, if I'm if I touch the hand, I can feel that okay, this girl is holding so much of tightness in the hand. It's not easy for me to move the hand here or here. It's a lot of holding happening. So rigid or fluid, and fluid doesn't mean weak, okay? Fluid as in mobile but strong. At times, we mistake strength for rigidity. So keep it strong, we just tighten the muscles. But it can be relaxed at the same time strong. And this is the understanding of the element of air. It is strong, it has power, but still it is light. There is alertness, but there is no anxiety. Alert, but not anxious. Anulom Vilom is that balancing pranayam, which balances this element. When we inhale through the left and then exhale right, and then again inhale right and exhale left. So Anulom Vilom balances the nervous system because air is connected with nervous system. It calms restlessness, enhancing the air's quality, clarity, and flow. So when the air is balanced, one feels light, one feels spontaneous, one feels mentally sharp. If the air is weak, then we feel heavy, sluggish, we feel uninspired. If the air is in excess, we feel scattered, we feel anxious, and we are overly talkative. And then we come to the last element, space or ether. And the ideal pose to connect with the element of space is Shavasana. And Brahmari is the pranayama through which we can connect with this element of space. So in Shavasana, we lie down and the pose is of surrender. See, space is the container for all elements. The vastness where thoughts, breath, energy, everything dissolves. This is space. In Shavasana, we let our body soften into the earth. We sense the uh, we sense the space in our joints, chest, mind. We try not to hold on to anything. We try to be effortless, giving up all the tendency of controlling, changing, demanding. This is what? This is about dissolving, letting everything melt and dissolve into that spaciousness. So Shavasana is that pose. In Brahmari, that humming sound, okay, that is that humming sound. I told you which Jnanendriya represents the element of space, Shrotra, ear. And if ear is Jnanendriya, sense organ, okay, then what does it hear? It hears the sound, nad or shabda. Shabda is what is received by this Jnanendriya. And so, sound, which is produced in Brahmari, it connects us with this element of space. So, Brahmari creates a sense of inner spaciousness, dissolving mental clutter. And so, as a result of that, if the mental clutter is reduced, it invites higher wisdom, which we also call intuition. So, if the space is balanced, you feel creative, you feel intuitive, and you're connected to the bigger picture, not just looking what is immediate next, but you have a vision. You are in general connected to the bigger picture. If the space element is weak, one feels trapped, narrow. If there is excess of space, then also one is disoriented, disconnected. So, why do we need to practice this elemental awareness on the mat? See, when we become regular yoga practitioner or asana practitioner, then there is a possibility that it becomes a checklist. Our practice becomes a checklist of poses. When people inquire for class, they have this question always: what all will be covered? If you give a list, they'll ask, oh, you don't cover this? Then it becomes a checklist. I understand the curiosity to learn. I understand the enthusiasm and drive to learn also. There is nothing wrong in that. To begin with, that's all right. But when we become regular and when we know that, okay, now yoga practice is a part of my life, then we need to move on. Then we cannot we cannot uh, stick to that checklist, because when it becomes like a checklist of poses, there is a risk that it risks losing its soul. So this elemental awareness, it reconnects us with the practice. It gives some depth to the practice. This awareness makes our asana practice responsive. Your practice adapts to your inner state. It is not a rigid sequence that we follow. It is more expressive. Your body and breath then uh, become the expression of your inner world. It also becomes subtle. You tune into the energies which are beyond the physical, like the emotions and intuition. And then eventually, when we practice this kind of elemental awareness on the yoga mat, this awareness extends even off the mat. Then because I'm practicing elemental awareness, it becomes natural. It comes naturally even off the mat. Then we can ask ourselves, am I feeling rooted in the routines, or am I constantly scattered? So am I connected with the earth element? Am I flexible in relationships, in conversations, or um, am I resisting emotional flow, water element? Fire, am I pursuing goals with clarity and purpose, or am I pursuing them under pressure? Or am I burning out from over effort? Fire element, is it in balance? Am I keeping check on balancing the earth, water, fire, air? Am I open to new ideas, or I am feeling mentally stagnant? Space, am I making room for myself for rest and reflection, or am I always busy? Balancing the space element. When one begins to practice elemental awareness on the yoga mat while practicing asana, this is advanced yoga. This is advanced yoga practice. So by listening to the elements, our practice on the mat becomes like a dialogue. There is a dialogue. Are you all getting what I'm trying to tell you? Yeah. Okay. What we will now do is we will just practice. We'll do a practice of just 5 to 6 minutes of this elemental awareness. We will not be practicing asana, of course, but we will still be seated in Sukhasana, or you need not even cross your legs. Just be seated on the chair and be in Sukhasana. Be comfortable. If you are wearing spectacles, keep your spectacles aside and close your eyes. Just take a moment to arrive. Take a moment to completely arrive. Let your body settle. Let your breath become steady, effortless. And let your mind just arrive and land slowly on the seat of your meditation practice. Now bring your awareness, your attention to feel your sit bones, or if you are seated on a chair, bring your awareness to feel the feet touching the ground. Sense the weight of your body. Check which part of your body feels rooted. Where do you feel unsteady? Now notice your breath. Is your breath flowing like a river? Calm, effortless? Or is it stuck in your chest or throat? See if you can soften into its rhythm. Now bring attention to your belly. Then you feel the warmth of your core. Is the fire within you steady or it is blazing or it is dim? Now bring your awareness to the rib cage, shoulders, neck, spine. Does your spine feel light? Does your neck feel light? Where does your body feel light and where does it feel stiff? Now let your awareness expand. Begin to notice the gap or the pause, the space between breaths. Notice the space between inhalation and exhalation. Notice the space behind your eyes. Notice the space in your heart. Can you rest in this space, in this vastness? Take a deep, slow, long breath in. Pause for a moment at the end of inhalation and send a complete breath out. And very slowly, gently, you may open your eyes when you feel prepared. So, as we come to the end of this sharing, let's think of letting go of the idea that yoga is about perfecting shapes or chasing shapes. We are not a machine to be, fixed or repaired. We are all a living tapestry of earth, water, fire, air, and space. And when we attune to these elements, our practice becomes effortless. Our breath becomes our guide. And like Iyengar Guruji used to say, body becomes a temple. It's not a task. It becomes a temple. Okay. So this elemental awareness is nothing but it's like worshipping these elements. Okay. I think this is what I had to share for today. I will chant the prayer. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ Thank you.